And so here's the security characteristic line from this regression. This is how we refer to this line. The characteristic in this particular case is the market return. And so this tells us the slope and intercept for the best fit line for McDonald's relative to the S&P 500. Again, here is the monthly alpha, and the beta tells me the slope of this line, which is 0.6437. And so again, the regression line is also called the security characteristic line. And so now we have the capital allocation line, which is going to be the allocation between a risk-free asset and some portfolio P. We have the capital market line, which is the allocation between some risk-free asset and the market portfolio. We have the security market line, which is the graphical depiction of the capital asset pricing model. And so I no longer have sigma on the horizontal axis. I have beta on the horizontal axis. And now I have the security characteristic line, in which I have the return of the market on the horizontal axis and the return of the stock on the vertical axis. Again, you don't necessarily need to memorize these, but we have a lot of these lines and it's just a little confusing. So just to sort of spell out the difference. So let's look at some of the regression characteristics. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an example from the homework. And I just want to go through this very quickly so that we can understand both graphically and mathematically what a regression looks like for two different stocks, stock A and stock B. So just looking at these two graphs, we want to answer a couple of questions about the return of stock A and the return of stock B. And notice that stock A, the line is a little bit flatter, but it intercepts above the origin. For stock B, the line is a little bit steeper, but it intercepts below the origin. And the dots are a lot more spread out relative to the line for stock A than they are for stock B. So given these two drawings, which stock has the higher firm-specific risk? Remember that the deviations from the security characteristic line is idiosyncratic or firm-specific risk. And so stock A, and we can look at the graph and see that stock A has the higher firm-specific risk because deviations from the line are larger. And remember, deviations are measured by the vertical distance, and this is drawn in such a way that these are super, super tight. We could tell this by looking at the R-squared if we had the regression numbers. And whichever stock has the lower R-squared has the higher firm-specific risk. Which stock has the greater systematic or market risk? Well, market risk is going to be the beta or the slope of the SCL. And so SCL for stock B is steeper, so stock B has the higher systematic risk. Which stock has the higher R-squared? Okay, let's take a second to think about this. R-squared is the ratio of the explained variance to the total variance. Total variance is the sum of explained plus unexplained, or residual, or idiosyncratic part. And so note that the R-squared is going to be the beta times the market variance divided by the total variance. Remember, the market variance is the same for each stock. And so since the explained variance for stock B is greater than the explained variance for stock A, and the residual variance for stock B is smaller, stock B's R-squared must be higher than stock A's R-squared. Say that one more time. Since the explained variance for B is higher than for A, and the residual variance for B is smaller, it must be that the R-squared is higher for B than A. And we can see this here by seeing how the dots are a lot tighter than they are for stock A. Which stock has the higher alpha? Alpha is the intercept of the SCL with the vertical axis, or the security characteristic line. We can see that stock A has a small positive alpha and stock B has a negative alpha. And so stock A's alpha is larger. Which stock has the higher correlation with the market? Remember, the correlation coefficient is the square root of the R-squared. Since stock B's R-squared is higher, its correlation must be higher. Okay.